Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Bahram. I am an electrical contractor based out of Vancouver, BC. And in today's video, I would like to share with you my top 7 tips to consider before pricing out your future jobs. Let's get into the video. As an electrical contractor, my main focus is to be providing fair enough quotes to still be competitive, to be able to get the jobs that we are bidding and quoting on, and still be profitable as a business, which of course there's a profit margin and all that we set for ourselves every year that we want to make sure we hit. But as far as I know is that across the board for all the different contractors in construction in general, it is the pricing is always the most difficult thing to do, as there's always different situations and different ways that companies calculate their quotes and go off by different ways that they be able to submit their quotes for the jobs. Now, with that being said, starting off with number one is that you need to be able to calculate and know your overhead and profit margin, so you're able to have an idea what you need to make, whether it's per hour, per day, per journeyman, per apprentice that you should be charging. So that's point number one, is that you need to calculate that and make sure that you know what your number is. It could be vary and it could be different from company to company. The most important thing is here is that you want to make sure that whatever you are charging, obviously being again competitive enough for you to be able to get the jobs, but at the same time is that you have to meet those profit margins that you have and to cover your overhead expenses. Now for myself, I use a very simple formula that I found online that I've been using, and it's just something very simple that you can look up and kind of sit down and calculate, and to make sure that again you have those numbers figured out. And that's step number one, because it's very important as you go along for all your bidding and quoting for all the jobs that you have, whether it being residential, commercial, service calls, and as an electrician as a whole. Now, tip number two is time and material. With this kind of pricing is whether it's requested with your customers or it just makes more sense and this is the way that you prefer to do the job, is one way that you're able to complete your jobs efficiently, but it's something that you need to have the discussion with your customers upfront. Now, with time and material, the way that it works, I'm sure everyone knows or most people know, is that you're charging your time that you're putting into the project plus your material, and some people even add a little profit into their material as well, like a certain percentage, maybe 10%, 15% or so. And this way is very powerful for and very useful when you're doing projects that you don't know what the full scope will be until you actually get into the project. Now, some things, again, like I said, just because you don't know how long it could take, or once you, for example, once you remove a wall, once you remove the drywall, you don't know which way the wire is coming from, how much of work needs to go into the project as much as you think. So it's always good to have that as a backup. But again, it's something that you want to discuss with your customers or your general contractors to make sure that they're aware of that. And obviously it is a moving target, so that you don't know what the final cost will be for the customer. Tip number three is going to be fixed pricing or just quoted price. And with this is great because you yourself, you know what the scope of work is going to be, you know how much, and obviously the quote that you're giving, you know how much that set amount is, and you're able to calculate how much time is going to go into it and what your profit is and all that. And also is especially great for the homeowner or your customers, as they know that with that set amount, they're able to get that part of the project done and they can budget and all that around that. So it is very great based on that. Now with fixed pricing, this is always great for whether it's a new construction, whether it's a residential or commercial. For commercial, if you're doing tenant improvement or TI type projects, which you take a commercial unit and either they're changing the business inside or just might be doing some remodeling. So you could also use that for fixed pricing depending on the situation. So fixed pricing again is very great for both yourself and the homeowners and your customers. Now, tip number three is going to be studying the plans. Whenever you get plans for your project, again, residential or commercial, you want to really make sure that you sit down and you go through the plans that is provided to you and get all the information that is relevant to your scope of work. Make the notes of whatever it is that they're requesting from you. And again, if you have come up with questions, that's always a great time to go back either to the engineers or to your general contractor or even the homeowner to get some clarifications before you're able to submit your quote. One thing that I come across most of the time, and I've made mistakes on this many times and I probably still will, is that when you are reading the plans, one thing that's, for example, very important is going to be who's going to be providing the light fixtures. So for commercial projects, and normally they use 2x4 panel lighting that's going to go into the T-bar ceiling, and some projects want an electrical contractor to supply that and install. Some others only want you to install, and the lights will actually be supplied by the general contractor or the owner. And that's very important because, of course, if it's something that you're going to be supplying, you want to make sure you're including that in your quote. And if it's something that you're not supplying, is that you want to make sure you don't include it, so your price is not extremely high, to reflect that properly. Now, tip number five, to make sure that you have systems in place. What I mean by that is that for my quoting that I do and my bidding that I do for my projects, I have a system in terms of what I look at and the process that I go through to look at all the plans and come up with all the notes and get back to the customers, and even templates that I have made over time that I use to be really quickly input all the information that I need to come up with a price and quote to submit right away to the customers. It's not just about the time as how quick you get back to your customers, but it's also important for it to be accurate. I use the systems that I have and the templates that I've kind of created over time, and this could be for really quick projects, one-day projects, or even bigger residential or commercial projects as well that you can use. And it kind of helps you as a guide to make sure that you don't miss anything, there's no miscommunication or misunderstandings, on your end. And if there's any questions or anything that you need to get clarified before submitting your quote, that you're able to do that promptly and as quickly as possible. Now, with tip number 6, is that you want to make sure that you're not too expensive. Now, it's very hard to gauge that at the very beginning, but over time, as you submit your quotes for all the projects that you take on, residential, commercial, you're able to see with the jobs that you get, you'll be able to kind of gauge that. What I mean by that is, let's say you are submitting quotes for your general contractors and they're doing similar type of work, and if you're getting pushback from them and saying that this is too high or it's something that is too expensive, you kind of know that you are on the high end. And on the other side, of course, is that if you're submitting your quotes and without any questions, you're getting a okay or yes, go ahead, you could be priced right, but you also want to look at to make sure that you're not underpriced. So again, going back to point number 1, you want to make sure you have your overhead and your expenses on all that calculated beforehand to make sure that even on the jobs that you want to be very competitive and you still want to be able to get the jobs and complete the work, but you want to make sure that you're not losing money. It goes back to that and making sure you have all that figured out before you do anything else. Now, tip number 7 and the final point here is that you want to make sure that you are able to take some time and do your site visits. With site visits is great as you're able to visually see the layout and what your scope of work needs to be before you go ahead and submit your quote. Now, with my own experience is that I actually had a customer, long time customers that I deal with, they actually wanted to install some recessed spotlights in their newly purchased home, and they gave me a call really quick and they're like, hey, I want to add these spotlights, how much would that be? I told them that I can give you a rough idea, but once I get there I have to take a look to see what we can do. But what we ended up doing is that I actually told them that it's better for me to come out and take a look before I give them a quote, as they really wanted to know exactly how much it's going to be and didn't want any adjustment in price. So the very next day I was able to take some time, go out to that property, and once I got there, even though over the phone they told me that this is going to be on a top floor, so this should have attic access, so it's very easy to run my wiring and my jumper wires that I need between each light fixture, I actually found that it actually did not have any attic access, and we actually had to make some trench into the drywall to be able to make our holes into the joists and be able to run our wires that way. And that was great because I was able to tell them this beforehand, so they kind of had that expectation and they knew what needed to happen and where the pricing, if it was slightly more, and also for the drywall patching and all that they had to take care of afterwards. So that's why I really believe and want to make sure that everyone understands that it's very great to be able to do your site visit before you submit any quote or any bidding if possible. I hope with these tips they're able to kind of provide you with some details and kind of give you some direction. And either way, there are many people that I know that are in the trade for a very long time, and every time I speak with them, the hardest part about running their business is going to be pricing, as there are always lots of competitions that kind of come into the market, especially depending if you're in a bigger city or smaller cities. Like here in Vancouver, there's lots of electrical contractors, plumbers, HVAC, general contractors even. So it's very hard to be competitive all the time. So finding your right customer base and also knowing again like that calculated overhead and your expenses is very great to at least kind of get you going on that. And of course, you just have to kind of see again based on your customer base what you can do and how you can quote your jobs. Thank you for watching my video. Please check out my other videos that I have posted on my channel. If you get any value from these, please make sure you give me a like and subscribe, and leave in the comment down below if any videos or any subject you would like me to cover on my YouTube channel here. And thank you so much for watching my videos. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you on the next one.